Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Untethered Minds.
Welcome back to Untethered Minds.
No song? I was waiting.
You always call me out for it. I'm just saying.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to
Welcome
Untethered
back.
Minds.
Mm-hmm.
I am Ashley.
And I'm Tavis.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
So we are back with a new episode, clearly. And today, what are we talking about?
What aren't we talking about?
It's
a little bit of everything, but mostly the JFK assassination.
Yeah, it's quite a history lesson.
Yeah.
And then some, I feel like.
Yeah, how much everything is just intermingled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we were researching earlier, it was like, okay, how far do we want to go with this one episode? Because it gets
We could do a 4-hour episode on this. I mean, we really could.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I think even that would not cover everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than you would ever really think. A lot more than just a president getting killed. We can say that much. But first of all, holy moly, we have not talked to you guys on the podcast since Donald Trump was pew-pewed.
Yeah.
That was July 13th.
Yeah.
We are recording on Sunday, August 11th, so we're almost 1 month out exactly.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, there was so much craziness around the assassination attempt. Just the fact that it happened, period, is a big deal, let alone all the circumstances around it.
Right.
So yeah.
Let alone all the circumstances around it.
Yeah, it was such a crazy day. I just sat there and like cried for a minute because it was terrifying.
Yeah. If they didn't miss, I think there would be an automatic civil war in the streets. I really do. Because at that point, there is no other option.
Yeah.
Right? We're trying the diplomatic route. We're trying to do it by the books and vote the candidate we want in.
Right.
But if they're doing everything they can to stop him, I mean, they use the media to make everyone hate him.
Yeah.
Then they try to use the courts to throw him in jail. Now they've failed an attempt at his life. And so because they failed at all that, then that's when they pulled Joe, the most popular president of all time, and installed Kamala Harris. And that's the most bizarre thing to me about all these Democrat voters is in the name of fighting tyranny, they're voting for tyranny.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't pick Kamala.
No.
They did not pick her.
No.
A handful of people, their party, handpicked Kamala, and basically told their voters, deal with it. Yeah. That's tyranny.
And she got the vote overnight.
Yeah.
And the money for fundraising got transferred, which I think should also be illegal.
Right.
There's just so many.
Oh, yeah.
So much corruption going on.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And seeing these women out here like cat ladies for Kamala.
Yeah.
Who was
and then
this is the best script ever written.
The guy was like, cat dads too. Like, dude, this is not a flex. Like, and that's another thing too. You notice that it's predominantly liberals have cats and conservatives have dogs. Like, dogs. Think of dogs. They're loyal. They're protective. Yeah. They love. Like, they do love. Yeah. Right? Cats are assholes, right? They're self-centered assholes. Yep. They'll be fine 1 second, then claw your eyes out another second, right? If that's not the difference between conservatives and liberals, I don't know what is, right? I mean, you get a pet that represents your personality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just really sad. There's all these interviews of people being asked, like, why are you voting for Kamala? And they're like, what was the one guy saying? I'm a trans man.
It was a girl.
Gay.
It was a girl. That said, I'm a trans man who's gay, who's had an abortion before.
What?
And so I want to be able to keep that ability. Wait, hold on. I don't
even know how to break that down.
Okay. If you're a woman identifying as a man who happens to be gay, You're just straight.
Yeah, because you're...
like if you're a woman saying that you're a man, but you're gay, meaning you like dudes...
Why don't you just stay a woman?
You're
and like
just
dudes?
straight.
Yeah.
And then the friend that she was with, was like, well, I'm voting for her because I had an abortion too, because it was an underage pregnancy, and that would have been bad for me for like personal reasons. Personal reasons meaning not taking accountability. Look, the whole abortion, I know we're going off track, but the whole abortion argument can be ended with one thing. Yeah. Accountability. Take accountability. You don't want a kid? Wrap it up. Take a contraceptive. Pull out. Do anything smart that doesn't allow you to get pregnant.
Right.
I had my daughter at 30 years old.
Mm-hmm. I've never gotten pregnant.
It's possible to not get pregnant.
I've never gotten pregnant. Almost 30. Never
it's possible.
Pregnant.
You just have to be smart about it. And they're like, oh, well, I'm pregnant. I'm going to go get scraped. Like, that is the dumbest, and it's 97%. I don't care what any of you say. It's 97% is just birth control. Nothing else.
Yeah.
That's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
But that is her demographic of voters.
Yeah.
All of them. And she even said herself, what do we know about 18 to 24-year-olds? They are stupid. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's why they're paying all these influencers and all this other stuff, because this generation is so easily manipulated. Gullible.
And dumb.
And they don't ever look into the information themselves. So one of these Free Palestine rallies that was happening, when they were taking the flags down, the American flags down, and they were lighting them on fire, there was this guy that runs in. As soon as they bring the flag down, he runs in and grabs the flag and he runs off with it, and people chase him, right? But right before he grabbed it, two girls, probably college age, 19, 20 years old or whatever, they went to go get the flag, and as soon as this guy went in and grabbed it, they grabbed each other's hands and ran off and all this stuff. And that just goes to show that for them, this is just a social event. It's just a gathering. They have no idea what they're supporting by being there. They have absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're just here because it's the cool thing to do.
Well, and so they can post it on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Look, we're fighting to free Palestine. From who? From the evil Jews. Okay, which ones? Netanyahu. Name another one.
That's if they know Netanyahu.
Right. But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They have... from the river to the sea. Which river, which sea? They don't know any of these things that they're chanting.
And what do you identify as? Yeah, they would push you off a building there.
Right. Queers for Palestine.
Not a thing.
Yeah, go.
Not a thing.
Go.
Yeah, go.
And here's the thing. You guys are taking all this time doing these encampments and all this other stuff. And okay, the amount of effort and energy and money that it spends to do all that, buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Buy a ticket to Gaza.
Right.
Go buy a ticket to Gaza.
Go fight it there.
Right.
They all hate America anyways, so leave.
Right.
Leave. We'll take over. No worries.
It's absolutely astonishing.
Asinine.
I know the youth are always easily manipulated. It doesn't matter what generation it is. The young are dumb. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
But no generation has been this dumb.
No.
And this easily manipulated.
Ignorant.
Well,
and
selfish it's social media.
Yeah.
100% social media has raised these kids to be communists, essentially. Anti-American communists. Yeah. They hate America. I saw a post the other day where this guy was like, I really wish we could take the American flag back. I want to put American flag back in my yard and not make people think I'm a racist. What do you think we've been doing with the American flag? We're the ones that were upset when players were kneeling for it, and it's not because of race. It has everything to do with what that flag stands for and how many men, women have died defending that flag. So we have the freedom to protest. We have the freedom to do all these things. That's what that flag represents. And to kneel for it, kneel for the national anthem, is to spit in every single dead soldier's face. It is.
And that's just kneeling. What about the people who are actually burning them?
Right, and that's just kneeling, like you said.
Right.
So I think anyone that's caught burning an American flag needs to automatically be deported.
I would full-heartedly agree.
Automatically
be deported.
You guys talk
about Gaza so
that
much?
is.
There you go.
That's treason.
Take my tax dollars for that one.
That's treason.
Take my tax dollars.
And then putting up Palestinian flags. Mm-hmm. First of all, Palestine's not a place. Never was. It's Gaza.
Yeah.
It's the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
The Palestinian people are a thing, but there is no Palestine.
I'm just so sick of all the Palestine stuff.
Yeah, they're the new climate cult.
It's always got to be some kind of cult. So the political stage is a mess. I don't even...
Well, let's dive a little bit into that Trump situation, too.
Yeah, please.
Because there's a little bit of information in there that some of y'all might not know.
Yeah, so I think the biggest shock to us about the assassination attempt was that it was it was done on live TV. It was like a live execution, basically, is what they wanted it to be. They wanted it to happen on the world stage where everybody kind of saw it and was embarrassed. And I feel like had it happened, we would have woke up the next morning in a completely different world.
Right.
Really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Before we get too much into these crazy details of it all, it's been just about a month, and it seems like it's been completely wiped out of the media. They're calling Trump Hitler again. Yeah. I mean, they're just trying to...
ChatGPT gaslights.
Right. We had this whole conversation with ChatGPT last night asking about it, because I had seen that people were asking, and it had no recollection of it. And it just kept saying if it had happened, it would have been a major news event, and there would be articles about it, which there are.
Right.
And so, I don't know. I think that
it kept saying that it never happened until you said do a quick Google search and it goes, oh, this data has been added to my database.
And I had someone,
but then you asked about the JFK assassination and it gave details about that.
Or Lincoln,
right? And
somebody was saying that it mines from a certain database and that it only has records up until 2016 or something. But I'm like, AI is supposed to be crazy smart, and it doesn't have access to the easiest of search engines being Google. That should be built into its database.
Right.
Period.
Right.
I don't get it. Okay, so the craziest stuff about this assassination attempt was that the guy they have pinned for it, we think, and so many others think, that he was a total patsy.
Oh.
Do you want to go there yet? Where do you want to go yet?
Wait. Which one are you talking about?
Thomas Matthews Crooks. Thomas Matthew Crooks.
Oh, I don't think. I know.
Yes.
So that's not even who the shooter was. Maxwell Urick. Yearick. Look him up. Maxwell Urick. You have all the notes written down about him, but if you look at the picture of the shooter that was shot on the roof and a picture of him, it's 100% him.
It's so much closer. And I remember seeing the Thomas Crooks photo versus the shooter photo.
Right.
And you kind of can convince yourself that it's the same person.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, okay.
Draw lines off. But
then you see Urick and you're like, oh, crap. That is not the guy they said it was. They said that Urick is a 30-year-old man, 5'11". His choice of rifle is an AR-15, was an AR-15. Good riddance. The man voted for both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Shocker. He was previously involved in a police altercation in 2016 at an anti-Trump rally where he was sentenced 2 months in county jail. He's really just been in a lot of altercations, period.
Since 2016.
Yeah. Brave search engine right now claims that he was the shooter in the assassination attempt, which was interesting. We found that. He's been involved in violent Antifa protests in the past, one in Seattle where he had issues with the police, and then property damage charges.
Yeah.
Roger Stone is out here claiming that he was the shooter. And then Maxwell Urick was also involved with another figure named Kenan Hooper, who... Was he the one that they were saying may have left the scene on a bike?
No. So they arrested someone with a bicycle next to the building where the shooter was shot. And there's a video of rally goers that are leaving.
Yeah.
And they see him with his bike. and it looks just like him.
Okay.
There's no confirmation that it's him.
Mm-hmm.
But both he and Yurik were Antifa members.
Okay. Yeah, and apparently there was, a video of 2 people on the roof?
Yeah.
As opposed to 1.
Yeah.
Other people have done some investigations where they've gone to the building where the shooter was, laying down, targeting Trump, and that had he actually been there and the Secret Service agents been where they said they were within that building, they would have clearly seen the guy on the roof before he even got a chance to do anything.
Right.
So that doesn't really align.
Well, there's even videos of a silenced rifle taking shots from one of the windows in the building.
Yeah, and that's where we saw that
The scope,
reflection.
the glare of the scope, and you can see a couple shots go off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So possibly 2 shooters.
Yeah.
Which sounds like JFK as well.
Well, I think there was more than 2. I do, because, I mean, there's still that video of someone on top of the water tower, too.
Oh, you're talking about at Trump's.
At Trump's.
Yeah.
Well, in JFK, I think there was a lot more as well.
Well, okay. We'll get into that. Some more notes. This was really crazy, actually. We found this video on TikTok of a man. Did he work at Clairton Sportsman's Club?
No, this guy, no, he was just a reporter.
Okay. So there's a report out in the world that Thomas Crooks and Maxwell Urich were both members of this Clairton Sportsman's Club in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. The place was known to actually have a lot of trainings for Department of Homeland Security and ICE. They also had DHS live exercises there ever since 9/11. It's a really big facility with tons of acreage for different shooting ranges. You can do live action acres, shooting live animals and things. So it would be the perfect place for them to take kids to learn how to shoot. Mm-hmm. Perfect place for operatives within our own government to possibly take them to learn how to shoot, allegedly. Yeah. So that was really crazy when we learned that.
So my theory on that whole thing too is I think Max and Kinnan kind of recruited Thomas. Mm-hmm. If he's even involved in any of this to begin with. But I mean, if you look at videos and stuff of Thomas, I mean, he looks like a kid that probably got picked on a lot in high school, and so Antifa, the liberals, alphabet community, all these different groups love preying on the weak, right? And so they get these people that are looking for acceptance, and so what better way to get acceptance from a conservative kid, because Thomas Crooks, both of his parents were conservatives, or one was an independent and a conservative or something like that. But to kind of go along with your ideologies, well, you go shooting, right? You teach them how to shoot. You go to a shooting range. So I think they were probably if there were 2 shooters, it was probably Thomas and Maxwell, and Thomas probably chickened out. And ran away, and Maxwell got shot. But Maxwell was always supposed to get shot, and that's the thing. There's no way the CIA let all this happen, and Secret Service and all that stuff let all this happen just by not taking the proper precautions.
I agree.
It was 100% planned. Yeah. And why was this the only rally that CNN live streamed?
Right. And I think that they did have incompetent people in the force because DEI hires.
Yeah.
But that was probably also purposeful to make
that woman is now the one that kept missing her holster.
Oh, yeah.
She's now assigned to Vance.
What is that? Oh, J.D. Vance.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, she was with him on the tarmac when he was talking about how Air Force Two is going to be his plane in a couple months.
Well, and the other thing that was so weird, too, with this Thomas Matthew, whatever his name is, he doesn't deserve even have his name said, was that they kept showing a picture of him from when he was young.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah, where it's his class picture, and he's, dressed up, looks really dorky.
Right. Well, there's pictures now floating around of him as trans.
Right. Right, with the long hair and, that weird choker necklace on. It's just so insane.
By the way, I'm taking a drink of Freedom water.
Freedom 2.0.
Because without freedom, and without water, you're dead.
Yes. What an ad. Freedom 2.0, y'all are so lucky.
You need both to live, you know?
Mine says you can't deprogram freedom. That's the one I'm drinking
Mine's,
out of.
Water ain't woke.
This water ain't woke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't find that a lot of what happened on the 13th of July sits well. It was such a crazy moment. Like, it was one of those, like, we know that the world is really evil, but when it was happening there in the moment, I'm like, did we really just see them shoot and kill Donald Trump?
So I think
it was shocking.
If it was successful, it would have been the new 9/11. Mm-hmm. As far as the impact that it has on the country, society, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, think about us millennials, though. Think of all
the things we've lived through.
All the different things that we've gone through.
Trauma. It's no wonder we all have trauma issues.
Yeah.
Just the world we live in alone.
I think Gen Z's got us beat on the trauma.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, they create their own, though.
But yeah.
Right now, we just kind of like keep eating our chips and it's like, all right, what else is next?
We made it through one recession, a depression, or like a complete, downturn of the dollar expected at this point. Yeah.
Y2K.
Yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on. We are so...
9/11, COVID.
What else?
The swine flu.
Obama's administration.
Yeah. War on terror.
Yeah, no. Another weird thing about this Trump assassination attempt was the fact that apparently the shooter, drove a van.
Yeah, they all drive a van.
They always drive vans.
Yeah.
Where's like the Hyundai Elantra
There's
or the
always a
Camry? Like, these kids are losers.
Yeah.
Vans have got to be expensive,
Yeah.
Is there just like a
well,
van
no, I
warehouse?
mean, this one definitely looked like a van for sure. It did. I
just don't believe it.
It looked the part.
I don't believe it's
okay,
his, though.
So either one of two things.
Is there like a creepy van depot where all these guys
One of
go
two
get their
things.
cars?
It's either always set up that way,
Mm-hmm.
or it's part of the MK Ultra programming that these particular individuals have undergone, that for whatever reason they think they need a van to carry all their stuff with explosives in it. They always have explosives in the van. All right.
Yeah.
So, and then the part that they're not talking about is the person on what looked like a motorized bicycle taking off from the water tower when all the police were staring up at the roof.
Yeah.
Because they realized someone was up there.
Yeah.
But they weren't paying attention to the guy on a motorized bicycle that took off.
I mean, there were a handful of shots fired. It wasn't just one or two, So it just makes you think, where were they actually coming from?
Right.
'Cause I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Why wasn't all of that stuff set up or left set up for a lot longer? The stage, the stands, all that. Because then they can judge the trajectory of the bullets.
Right.
And where they really were coming from.
Right.
And then someone shot a hole into the water tower. So why wasn't Secret Service snipers talking about shooting someone at the water tower?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like it. The fact that, like, the fences, they didn't even have a way to take the fences down to get in there. Ugh, it just makes you sick, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it was all staged.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a public execution.
Mm-hmm. And that's so sickening.
Yeah.
All the people who came out afterwards saying, so close.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe you missed. We were so close to
no
living a better
morals,
world.
no values.
Ugh, disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting. So, God bless Donald Trump living. Truly an act of God. Truly.
Yeah, there's kind of no other explanation for it.
No. And I do not believe, I know people say this, that it was set up by him.
Right.
Why would they risk
publicity?
Yeah, and just how close it was to being like the end of him. Why would they get that close? If he set it up like that, I mean, again, a millisecond earlier, he would have been shot through the head. Yeah. They really set it up to be that close.
Yeah.
No, because that
Well,
means he would.
and that's the
have
thing
a
too.
much higher
They're
chance of
like,
dying.
well, you know, when all the Secret Service agents were on him, they put the blood on him and stuff to make it look like he was bleeding. Like, you see him go
Yeah.
to his ear before he hits the ground, and he has blood on his
Yeah.
hands. Like,
Right.
whether it was he actually got grazed or it was a fragment of something else that
Right.
hit him, whatever. Something caused him to bleed.
And he came down to the ground,
Right.
and that velocity makes the blood that was on the ear or wherever
Yeah.
goes across his face. There's a picture of him you can literally see lying on the ground, and the blood is coming off of him at that, like, you know, that certain angle, because that's what happens.
And there was a bullet hole in his jacket
Yeah. Yeah. So second.
that no one ever talked
Something.
about,
I know. I remember
reported
that.
on.
Yeah. And it was just great that the Secret Service didn't know what in the world to do. That was just the cherry on top.
Yeah.
God bless him. We keep that man in our prayers, honestly.
Yeah.
And everybody talked about they're going to try to kill him. They're going to try to kill him. And I think it was in the back of our heads, but like, would they really? I don't know.
Well, and
they
then
tried.
now supposedly his Boeing had to do an emergency landing, and
Which is
that's what I was
weird.
reminding people was the Boeing whistleblower. They're pre-conditioning everyone to accept the fact that if a
Programming.
Boeing goes down, you're not going to think twice about it because it's a Boeing.
Right.
They're built crappy, and they're going
Right.
to fall apart in the sky. And Trump flies around in a Boeing.
That he takes really good care of, apparently.
Well, of
like,
course.
the checkups are
I mean,
crazy on it.
Of course.
Yeah, and it's his own plane, so he can do whatever he wants. He's not flying
Right.
Southwest, you know what I mean? Like, he can
Right.
do whatever. So the fact that something was wrong and they, like, emergency landed early was sus.
Yeah.
Especially after that plane just went down in Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh,
With
okay.
what? 6 what?
Cancer doctors.
Oh, yeah.
Like, major cancer doctors were on that flight.
Yeah.
And they all died.
It's almost like they found a cure for cancer.
Ain't no such thing as a coincidence, y'all. Always keep that in your brain. Okay. Are we ready for JFK?
Let's dive into it.
The 7 pages worth of notes.
Yeah.
The biggest thing to take away from this, well, not the biggest thing, but a very big lesson and, like, holy crap moment is the fact that the phrase conspiracy came from
Conspiracy
this event.
theory.
Sorry,
Or
yes,
theorist.
conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory. The CIA developed this word after this event to try and discredit these people, Jinx, for basically saying that it was a cover or it was an inside job by the CIA. And so, thank you, CIA, for giving us our platform about conspiracy theories. Everything that's going on in the world. We are proud to call out all the crazy stuff y'all have been up to. The crazy other thing that I realized was that there's no living person connected to the JFK assassination today.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of hearsay
Yeah.
and records which haven't been released.
Well, they were released. Remember, they were declassified about a year into Biden's
Not all of them,
administration. No, not all of them. But they became reclassified within like a week or two.
Well, they were still redacting things out of them too, which is an issue we can get into.
But they basically admitted to being behind it, though. The CIA did. The only thing that happened good under Biden was he declassified those. Well, the other thing, a silver lining, I guess, is you could say that he woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
Because they saw just how bad it was. But when they declassified it, in those documents, it's basically the CIA, like, kind of admitting fault, saying that they were behind it. I don't remember the correct verbiage, but essentially it was, if they were to do an assassination, this is how they would do it, type of thing. Right. I think the documents were like a month before the assassination, or 2 months or something like that. But basically saying how they would do it. And if you know anything about the CIA and the Pentagon, when they plan stuff, they usually follow it through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they planned on the Pentagon getting hit by a plane. They were talking about making the Twin Towers knock over into each other to knock them down. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're evil people.
Yeah.
Trump on the JFK assassination says, quote, "If you knew what I know, you wouldn't tell people either."
So here we are.
So just to, well, gosh, there's so much, and I want to touch on what you just said, but I want to go into it.
So everything that we can mention
in a way that makes sense.
is available to the public.
Yes.
It's just buried.
Yes.
But it is available to the public. So like this isn't any like inside scoop. Like we know exactly who pulled the trigger by name.
No.
But we can point the fingers at a couple groups.
This is Google. This is Twitter. This is Reddit. This is... What's the other app we use with the groups?
What do you mean? Oh, Telegram?
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All kinds of places like that. Documentaries.
Well, and a lot of it is declassified stuff as well. So.
Yeah. Let's just get into the nitty gritty of it. November 22nd, 1963, John F. Kennedy was killed while driving in a presidential motorcade through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. He wasn't driving. He was riding in the car, by the way.
Yeah.
I said driving. He was not in the driver's seat, which is important to note.
He was riding. Had 3 rows. He was in the back seat.
John F. Kennedy was riding in the car with his wife, Jackie Kennedy, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife, Nellie. He was allegedly shot from the nearby Texas School Book Depository by former U.S. Marine Lee Harvey Oswald. He allegedly had fired 3 shots from the 6th floor of the depository there. The motorcade later rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where Kennedy was pronounced dead about 30 minutes after the shooting. Connally was also wounded in the attack but recovered. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as president 2 hours and 8 minutes later aboard Air Force One at Dallas Love Field. So crazy. And I think this probably absolutely changed the trajectory of the country. Yeah. In fact, there's a Stephen King book about what were to happen if JFK had not died that day. Yeah, it's super anti-JFK, but that's very Stephen King of Stephen King, so not
Stephen
shocking.
King's like a hardcore liberal.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah.
Talk about a childhood hero letdown.
Talk trash about Trump every single day.
Yeah, I used to love him, and then I got smart. We can't mention JFK's assassination without talking about the Zapruder film, which was the only video that recorded the assassination from start to finish. First red flag, though, was that the footage wasn't released until 1975, which was 12 years after.
Right.
Why keep it a secret for 12 years?
Yeah.
Is it because you were doctoring it?
Yeah.
Waiting for better technology? Because you got to think, technology changes a lot in a decade.
Right.
Especially in the 60s to the 70s. So that was definitely a red flag. From that film, frames 223 and 224 are apparently the only 2 frames where Kennedy is out of sight. But it's in those 2 frames that all the action happens.
Right.
Allegedly. Crazy enough, there is a documentary out there called American Conspiracy: The Octopus Murders, where a reporter is coming on saying that basically there's been this faked footage, which is the Zapruder film. She says that in the footage that she actually saw, it shows the driver shooting Kennedy. And that when she went back and looked at this doctored film after the fact, this video that the media was shopping around shows that there's like a floating tree in the doctored version. And so that floating tree is like evidence that they replaced a frame with another frame as to make it look like the shooter wasn't in the car. But for me, I think the one thing that, and we'll get into the theories of like the shooters and whatnot, but had the shooter been in that car, it makes so much sense why Jackie Kennedy was like trying to get out.
Get out. Yeah, she's crawling out the back.
Yeah, and everybody says that's because she was going after the piece of Kennedy's skull that literally went flying off the back of the car.
But if it's on the back of the car, then that means the bullet came from the front.
Right. Why was it going that way? Projectiles. Right. 30 years after the JFK assassination, a bunch of doctors actually came out with their findings of JFK's autopsy. What they found in the autopsy suggests that the lone shooter narrative is false. Shocker. They were scared that the people behind Kennedy's murder would come after them if they spoke out any sooner. So it took them all of 30 years to come out and speak their truth about what happened. This is a documentary on Paramount Plus if you want to watch it. It's called
You mean
JFK.
60 years?
Sorry, no. This is 30 years.
Okay.
This is called JFK, What the Doctors Saw. After Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended and taken in, he was being transferred?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Jack Ruby shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
So I don't think they ever really got interviews or anything out of
No interrogation
Oswald.
yet, no.
Yeah. After all was said and done, the Warren Commission, which was the commission or group that was investigating the assassination, they concluded that both Oswald and Ruby's attacks were done on their own fruition and both were acting alone.
Yeah.
Lies.
Yeah.
I just don't know how somebody would single-handedly take out the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Even back then.
Yeah.
I think Abraham Lincoln, I understand. I kind of, you know what I mean? Like, that was much different time.
Yeah. Well,
Do we need to get into that, too? Holy moly guacamole. Okay. We're staying on JFK. We can get into Abraham Lincoln.
Well, I mean, look at what Lincoln wanted to do. Lincoln wanted to...
Good stuff, actually.
Well, but he wanted to remove everyone's free labor.
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing. And that's... So, a lot of people don't realize that all the Democrat slave owners back then, when the war was over and emancipation happened, they all moved north. Mm-hmm. They all went to New York and opened factories because they're still in business. They still have a business to run.
Right.
But now they don't have the free manual labor for it anymore. So why not build a factory with machines that can do it the same thing?
And if you are hiring people, it's for dirt cheap and they're in horrible
Right.
conditions and those
Right.
factories go up in flames and they don't
Yeah.
compensate anybody. Yeah. I know all about that too. So the Warren Commission came up with this conclusion because the CIA purposefully hid information about the events. They admitted withholding evidence to the commission in 2015. So, like you're saying, pretty much just admitting guilt.
Yeah.
Lead investigator on the commission was Mr. Allen Dulles, director of the CIA, who Kennedy had fired after the Bay of Pigs. So, an important thing to know about Kennedy was that I think he was a good guy. He was a Democrat, right?
Yeah, but he would have been a Republican.
At that time, Democrat had a lot different definition than it does now.
At that point, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party weren't extreme on either end.
Yeah.
Both of them would nowadays be considered fairly centrist.
Yeah.
They all have the same kind of morals, same kind of values. It was just different policies on how to do things and stuff. You know, like Nixon was actually really good friends with JFK.
Huh.
Nixon was Republican.
Yeah.
Which, to kind of sprinkle a little bit of knowledge on that, is that was the whole reason for the Watergate investigation, was to remove him because Nixon was looking into the JFK assassination because now he's president, he has authority to look into those things.
Right.
And the CIA still kept information out. And so what they did was they got Agnew, which was Nixon's VP. They got him on like tax evasion or something like that, some tax laws. So he basically had to resign. Well, then they put in Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford worked for the CIA. So Gerald Ford became the VP. And then Nixon resigned. Gerald Ford became president. So the CIA got their president in there anyway. Yeah.
Sneaky frickin' people, man.
Yeah.
It's
and
insane.
Then their next candidate that they put up was George H.W. Bush, but he lost to Reagan, but Reagan picked him to be his VP, and what happened to Reagan? Reagan was shot.
Yeah. It's very, very much an understatement to say that JFK and the CIA did not agree on much, Allen Dulles especially being the head of the CIA. In 1963, Kennedy withdrew all troops from Vietnam, ending the war without a victory or a defeat. And if we know anything about politicians, it's that they like forever war.
Yeah.
Because it makes them money. And just wait till we get to the history of all of that coming up, too.
All started with World War I.
It's so insane, y'all. Just y'all wait. after Kennedy's death, his successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, increased U.S. involvement in the war. So they got back on track, the big USA war machine. And I think as a whole, Kennedy was like a rebel against the cause. He knew that there were bigger players in the game.
Yeah.
And he was doing things to thwart it. Like, he was apparently having an affair with Marilyn Monroe, which is very common knowledge. And she was with, I think, who was the other one? Was it Bobby?
Was he, though? Or was it all just smear campaigns?
I don't know. But then apparently she was shown classified documents about...
which is why she was killed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just very, very dark at the heart of it, and the things that they're willing to do in order to get their war machine going. But more than anything, there was a lot of tension around Fidel Castro and the spread of communism in Cuba. Cuba being very close to the USA. They were always like, this is such a threat, this is such a threat. They're just, a bay away from...
But it's Cuba.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come on.
I know, this tiny little island.
Like, I think 46 or 7 of our states are bigger than Cuba.
Right. And Kennedy did not want the Bay of Pigs to happen. He was very much against it, and that it was going to start World War III in the name of the military-industrial complex. But what's new? Crazy enough as well. So this was something that I had not heard of. I know you had when I brought it to your attention. But the fact that this stuff is just on Wikipedia and, like, no one's reading it. Like, I didn't know. So there's a lot of people out there who don't know.
Yeah.
But it's on Wikipedia, okay? Word for word, I'm going to read you about Operation Northwoods.
Yeah.
This was part of the U.S. government's anti-communist Cuban project, so it's related directly to this time. It was authorized by Joint Chiefs of Staff and then rejected by Kennedy. So Kennedy knew this was going on, was not about it. So as a result, none of the false flag events set forth by Operation Northwoods became active. So, quote, this is what this is. Operation Northwoods was a proposed false flag operation that originated within the U.S. Department of Defense of the United States government in 1962. The proposals called for CIA operatives to both stage and commit acts of terrorism against American military and civilian targets, blame them on the Cuban government, and use them to justify a war against Cuba. Does this sound familiar, class?
Yeah. Muslims with box cutters.
Yep. The possibilities detailed in the document included the remote control of civilian aircraft, which would be secretly repainted as U.S. Air Force planes, a fabricated shoot-down of a U.S. Air Force fighter aircraft off the coast of Cuba, the possible assassination of Cuban immigrants, sinking boats of Cuban refugees on the high seas, blowing up a U.S. ship, and orchestrating terrorism in U.S. cities. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Wikipedia is telling y'all that there are false flag event operations organized by the CIA, and the only person who was able to shoot them down was the frickin' president, who then got killed how long after the fact?
Yep.
And people are still walking around being like, no, we trust the government with everything. Literally how?
NPCs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to say it.
I think I just got some cardio in with that. My heart is racing.
Well, and kind of like
it's infuriating.
Like I was explaining to you. So it's like those of us that see the world for what it is don't have a VR headset on.
Right.
Everyone else has a VR headset on, and they're like, "No, it's this. This is what's going on." Yep. Like, no, dude, take the thing off. Just take it off.
Take the goggles
dude,
off.
I'm not wearing anything.
Take the goggles
That's
off.
what they all do.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing any goggles. Yes, you are.
You are. You freaking are.
Just peek. Just peek behind the curtain.
Right. So, again, tip of the iceberg, y'all. So we've talked about Mr. Allen Dulles, CIA director at this time, right? Super against Kennedy. Super for doing his own thing. Turns out he is related to John Foster Dulles, and the two of them together wrote the Treaty of Versailles. Both of them started out as lawyers at Sullivan and Cromwell, the practice. The Treaty of Versailles basically decided that Germany was to pay war reparations. This was what, after
World War One.
There you go. Reparations of basically what would amount to $250 trillion US. This would take them 60 years hard labor to pay off. So it was just an incredulous amount. And basically, the whole plot was to tank the German economy. And it worked.
Well, hold on. We got to...
What do you want to... Okay,
we got to backpedal just a little bit.
Okay.
So every major war since the French Revolution has been backed by world banking families, mainly the Rothschilds.
That name just sounds evil.
And they have funded both sides of every war. And essentially, just like in World War One, they're like, okay, the loser picks up the tab. So during World War One, all of these international bankers were making tons of money off of military supplies by investing in like Remington and all these other weapons manufacturers. And they realized how profitable war is.
Yeah.
And like, you need it. Like, you need all those things. So you need to constantly produce and constantly make and constantly sell. And once World War One was over, they're like, their cash flow is gone.
Yeah.
Their cash flow is gone. And so, that's kind of one of the reasons why they wrote the treaty the way that they did, was because they also wanted to tank them, but they wanted to build them back up. And then that's kind of where I'll let you take back over, because you have all the notes on it.
Yes.
But yeah, they wanted to build them back up for that aspect.
Right. And from everything that we were collecting information-wise, they were calling these people behind it all the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Which we feel like is kind of a watered-down concept at this point.
Right.
So we're going to call them...
It's the world bankers.
Yeah, exactly. Or they. You know what I mean? Like the infamous they. So they tried to sabotage the German economy. It worked. There was mass unemployment. I mean, people were just like wallpapering their homes with their cash because it was
useless.
Exactly. German investors were failing, which made it easy for these bankers to come in and buy up all of their stocks for cheaper, giving them basically total control.
Well, to buy also their factories, because even at this point, Germany was one of the world leaders in their manufacturing, and they had some state-of-the-art factories at the time. And so when they tanked the economy, it was easy for them just to swoop in and be like, oh, we'll help you out. We'll give you this money, but we want whatever percentage ownership of your factories. And so they built it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing. It was like, why are they doing all this? Not even for the money aspect.
No.
They wanted Germany to be successful and to be strong so that they would be a contender to go up against Russia and the Soviet Union.
The Soviet
Union at the time.
Yeah.
And so when this was all happening, they were starting to spew false information. Crazy. They were doing it back then too, because these same bankers owned all the newspapers. So they were putting out things in the newspaper trying to sway people to have a certain attitude towards the Bolsheviks, Bolshevism. So using the word Bolshi, I guess, was a big trigger for people, and aligning it with aggression. Right. This was one way for the elite to shape how we saw the world in the 20th century, and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, further proof that they've been doing this stuff for a long time. If you're not awake yet, welcome. So after this, Britain and the USA started investing a lot more into Germany, which just helped it become a strong country once again. It recovered very quickly, but now it was in the hands of these world bankers, these elites of the elite.
But these bankers, by the time that it was becoming successful, was like the new generation of bankers too.
Right.
Like, they've taken over for their dads and all this other stuff.
And so it was at this point that these financiers were looking for a new political movement to arrive.
Yeah.
They were looking for a super right-wing, aggressive leader who would want to, what do you know, start another war.
Yeah.
just so lucky for them, they found a man who had the political outcome they desired to really bump up this National Socialist Party, I guess, in Hitler.
Yeah, that's what Nazi stands for. National Socialist.
Ta-da! See, this is why we need each other, you guys. So making money from the war didn't start for national security purposes like they wanted people to believe, but it was for the rich to protect their own investments that they had put into the country, almost like the mafia is how they equated it. So this stuff goes back so far. This then also ties us into the secret societies of the world and of the country. The first in America was Skull and Bones. They were a secret society formed at Yale University in 1833. It was founded by two men, William Huntington and Alphonso Taft. And the thing is that I don't think a lot of people, not that they don't realize, especially if you're like in the light like we are, where you're seeing things, we realize there are secret societies, right?
Right.
But I think the idea of thinking, like imagining people dressed up in robes doing these rituals and sacrifices is like, that's crazy. Like, why would people do that? But like,
they do.
They do. I know it's hard to believe. It sounds like a movie, but like, it's so true.
And it's mostly like gay stuff too.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah. And if they are in fact doing it to worship an evil deity or Satan or whatever it is, I mean, these are rituals that are worshiping a dark force.
Yeah.
Really at the heart of it, that's powering them.
Every single person that's been in that fraternity has become a world leader of
Exactly.
some sort.
Exactly. They were saying that there were only 50 graduates from each class who actually became members, I guess. 50 graduates from each year's class.
Was it 50 or 15?
I believe it was 50. I think I heard 50.
15 makes more sense.
We'll have to double check that.
It's more exclusive.
Possibly. 15 or 50. Either way, I think the classes were pretty big. I think so, because it was exclusive no matter what.
Yeah.
Those people who got picked.
Yeah.
But whoever they were, 15 or 50, we can double check that. They all go on to fulfill these really big, important roles in society.
Yeah.
So it's like they're grooming them up to it.
Yeah.
Some of these people, U.S. Secretary of State William Max Evans, I may be pronouncing some of these names wrong. They're a little older. Treasury Secretary Franklin McVeigh, 27th President William Howard Taft, the founder of American football, Walter Camp, first chairman of the Federal Reserve, Pierre J., director of Standard Oil, Percy Rockefeller. Those names, man. Averell Harriman, who was the son of E.H. Harriman and founder of Harriman Brothers, which is the largest investment bank in the world. Both Bush presidents came from Skull and Bones, in addition to Bill Clinton. And their whole oath to each other is that they'll do anything to protect one another. Mm-hmm. Murder, anything.
Yeah, whatever they got to do.
Right. So it really just sets the stage. So how this connects to Kennedy was that he was surrounded by these men who had come out of Skull and Bones. He knew about secret societies. He knew the risk that was involved in the power they had.
Freemasons, too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Which that was a really interesting thing I learned. Not shocking at all, but basically everybody in British royalty is a Freemason.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
So him being surrounded by it, he took the problem really seriously and warned the American public about the dangers of these secret societies. He knew that was basically an unelected shadow government. And these were the people who literally put Hitler into power.
Right.
And built up Germany after World War I. Yeah. Like, they literally chose Hitler because he was an aggressive head.
Yeah.
Because they wanted money from a war.
Yeah.
And control.
And that's why we've been in a war ever since.
Yeah.
I mean, right after that, there was the Korean War. Then you had the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And then we've had Desert Storm. Mm-hmm. We've been, what was it, the Cold War, too? Forgot about the Cold War. We had the Cold War going on.
Yeah.
Now it's been the War on Terror for the last 30 years.
Yeah. It's just a mess. It's a mess. We're in
24.
Ukraine.
Sorry.
JFK himself came out in a speech to the American public and said, quote, "The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it." Mm-hmm. I love that line. "And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it is in my control. And no official in my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know." I like him.
Yeah.
He wanted us to know the truth.
Yeah.
And they could not have that whatsoever.
No.
Ugh.
Well, because at that point, the government was already not our government.
Right.
You know, it was still in the early stages of how they were doing stuff, but it was already taken over by the CIA.
Yeah. And they took total control by taking him out.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. So some notes on Lee Harvey Oswald. His wife has always said that it's unimaginable for her husband to have been involved the way that they said he was. I like to think that a wife knows her husband. I also know there's a lot of men who hide things for a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think back then it's a bit more of a simple life. Like nowadays you can get away with things. Maybe
yeah,
more.
But I mean,
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's easier back then to get away with things than it is now.
Because there's no phone.
And there's no tracking. There's no,
social media.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he could have said he's working late every single night and then going somewhere else, you know. So, but I think you get a sense, right? Like there's got to be at least a sense, especially if you're married.
Right.
Which means you spend enough time around that person.
Right.
To know literally everything about them.
Yeah.
You know.
Like if someone came to me and said, "Hi, your husband just came and assassinated the president," I'd be like, no, that's not him. Not him.
No.
Just a character basis.
Yeah.
But, I mean, could it have been MK Ultra? Could they have done brainwashing on the guy? Was he just wrong place? Like, how did he get there?
But that's what I mean. I think because he's a former Marine, so he had some ties within the government and all that stuff. I don't necessarily think it was MK Ultra. I think he was literally set up.
Yeah.
I think he was set up.
Yeah.
That we were watching that one video that basically said like these 20 bankers paid 8 different assassins to shoot at JFK.
Wow.
And so they were posted up in 8 different spots.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you actually think that Lee Harvey Oswald, given the opportunity, would have gone and been ready to do it?
But he wasn't even there. That's my thought. My thought was he wasn't even there.
Okay.
He was just straight up the patsy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he wasn't arrested in the building.
Right. Right.
I mean, there's like a shell casing that they found there, but like...
Yeah.
That can be planted anywhere.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think something else that made it very much for grandeur and for show is the fact that he was also shot during that transport on live TV.
Yeah.
So again, it's public execution.
Right.
It's like taking this dangling, hey, this man may know the truth about what actually happened. Oh, and he's gone.
Yeah.
You know? They always kill.
Well, a little interesting fact about Jack Ruby. Whose Senate campaign did he work on?
Wasn't it George Bush? No?
It was Nixon's.
Nixon.
He worked on Nixon's Senate campaign.
Mm-hmm.
That very campaign, Prescott Bush funded, which is George H.W. Bush's dad, George George W. Bush's granddad. But he was also one of the bankers that funded Hitler. Remember, he was trying to overthrow the U.S. government in the 30s.
Yeah.
With Smedley Butler. But Smedley turned him in. But because he was oil and a banker, they basically gave him a slap on the wrist and said, don't do that.
Of course.
And so then he started funding Nazis instead.
Much better. If you can't overthrow the U.S. government, just fund the Nazis instead. It's another way to take out the U.S. Yeah, and Jack Ruby, so this has also got me into a very interesting rabbit hole. When he was in prison, he was visited by a psychiatrist named Louis Jolyon West. Louis was a dangerous doctor known for his work on brainwashing and psychological torture.
Yeah.
Some
why
of West's, yeah, just throw that in there. Some of West's research on mind control was done as part of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, their Project MKUltra from 1953 to 1973. In this, illegal human experimentation was done to develop procedures and drugs to weaken people and force confessions through psychological torture and brainwashing. These experiments were carried out at over 80 institutions, including military bases, schools, universities, hospitals, prisons. Special brothels were established where customers were secretly dosed with psychoactive substances. The drugs tested included LSD, amphetamines, mescaline, psilocybin, and scopolamine.
Mescaline.
The drugs were combined in institutional settings with electroconvulsive or shock therapy, hypnosis, isolation, and sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
Several people died or were permanently damaged in these experiments, and Lewis later declared that Jack Ruby was insane and in need of mental help.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of one of the predecessor projects to MKUltra?
Mockingbird.
No. That's...
Bluebeam. No. Are you talking about a project?
Yeah. It was Project Blue Sky, then it turned into Project Artichoke.
Oh, yeah.
Project Artichoke was...
All the names are like up here. No.
Project Artichoke was them seeing if they could use like LSD, those types of things, to brainwash people into voluntarily doing an assassination.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again,
it's all available.
Public information, y'all.
Yep, go look it up.
Freaking Wikipedia.
Yeah.
That's kind of my favorite part about this, though, is that it is so accessible. And anyone who's like, where did you find this? I'm like, freaking Google. Jerks.
Google's free.
Yeah, Google's
But they won't do it
very
because
free.
they're programmed not to.
Right. We can't stand the truth.
It's funny. I saw someone today and they were basically saying NPC is the most cringe incel thing someone can say. And I'm like, here, let me main character explain something to you.
I just think it's so funny, too, that they assume that, like, all these conservative men are incels when the only incels are freaking Democrats.
Yeah.
The men who live in their mom's basements.
Right.
And do gross things at the computer.
Yeah. And their cats.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the fact that not all of these records have been released yet, even though they should have been a hot minute ago. So
I believe they're supposed to stay. I believe they're supposed to stay classified to 50 to 60 or something like that, and then after that, they're supposed to be automatically declassified.
I got you. So, no, they actually are required by law to submit all info about the assassination. Should have already. Yeah. That's the kicker here. So this was called the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992. It required all records of this event to be unclassified by 2017. 7 years ago, we were supposed to get all this info. President Donald Trump, who had vowed to release all the assassination-related documents, made more than 53,000 publicly available, according to National Archives, but he postponed the release of some citing, quote, identifiable national security, law enforcement, and foreign affairs concerns. In July of 2023, Trump again promised to release the remaining documents if he is reelected as president. In October 2021, President Joe Biden issued a memorandum setting a December 2022 deadline for the public disclosure of the documents that remained classified, a deadline he later extended again to June 2023. The Biden administration has released more than 17,000 documents, and on June 30th, the president certified that federal agencies had made available, quote, every single word that is appropriate for release under the standards of the act. So to date, that puts us, allegedly, at 99% of the files being released, according to the National Archives. But do they have to tell us for real?
No.
You know, they hide so much else from us. So everything should have come out almost 8 years ago. And yet we're still here without all of them.
Yeah.
And like you said, some of the stuff they did put out was still had redacted information on
Right.
it. So what good is that anyways? So everything should have come out. The other really strange thing about all of this is that Jackie Kennedy's pink suit that she wore in the limo that day won't be released to the public to view until 2103.
Yeah.
That took me a second to even figure out how to say that year. According to Wikipedia, quote, the garment is now stored out of public view in the National Archives. It will not be seen by the public until at least 2103, according to a deed of Caroline Kennedy, Kennedy's sole surviving heir. At that time, when the 100-year deed expires, the Kennedy family descendants will renegotiate the matter. Why? Why can't we see her outfit? Why?
Yeah, well, because the blood splatter never lies.
Right. And then they'll get Dexter on the case and he'll figure out exactly who did it. No, but that is so, suspicious. Mm-hmm. That they won't release it. So again, if you guys still do not think... I act like I'm talking to a bunch of, Democrats and, NPCs who don't know anything about the world.
No,
I know our listeners understand things.
I know.
But if there is somebody out there listening, honey...
No, they haven't made it this far.
This was an inside job.
If they're hate listening, they haven't made it this far.
They just wrote a really crappy review and then went on with the rest of their day.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered all the bases. We gotten information out of the way. Let's go through the conspiracies of it all, because I think that's the most interesting part. I mean, aside from all the history, it really feels like we were getting a history lesson going through all of this, and it's just really crazy to learn these things that you don't learn in school about the world bankers and why wars start.
Well, who do you think started public education?
Tell us more, Tabaru. That's a crazy thing too.
Wasn't it the Rockefellers?
I think so, but at the same time, I feel like I've looked at it and I couldn't find a straight answer.
It's so easy. The answer, it's either the Rockefellers or...
It was one of those big families.
Right.
They created the public
JP
education
Morgan,
system.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they created the public education system to create a generation of factory workers.
Yeah.
That was the whole point.
Yep. Indoctrination camps.
Yep. Keep everyone on time frames.
Yep.
Have a certain lunch break.
Yep.
Have a free time, in a sense.
And get moms to go into the workforce so that they're not collecting double on taxes, too.
Correct.
That didn't hurt things at all.
No.
The craziest thing about school to me, too, and I feel like I heard this recently, and I was like, wow, you're right, is, it's literally people telling you, when you can and can't eat.
Yeah.
When you can and can't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's just so...
Brainwashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Fully still pushing for homeschooling
Yeah.
our kids in the coming years.
But it's to teach, because if you control the children in the minds of the youth, you control the future, right?
Hitler.
Yeah. Well, where do you think he got that from?
Yeah. Well, and wasn't a lot of Hitler's mission to fight the world bankers?
No, I think that was a lie that was spun to
get people to hate him.
To get people to hate him.
And to get on the side of the elite.
Well, nowadays people say it as a positive thing. They're like, well, Hitler was fighting the world banker Jews and all that kind of stuff,
that's
right?
Yeah.
But why would he try to destroy them if they're funding him?
Yeah. That's very true.
You know?
That's very true. Yeah. Gosh, what a mess. What a mess. And do you think that Hitler actually died the way they said he did?
Oh, no. No. I think he made it to South America.
In his bunker.
Yeah, I think he made it to South America.
Didn't he just... Wasn't that the...
They were supposed to take cyanide or something like that.
Yeah.
Cyanide pills.
They found him with a bullet. Anyways.
But I think he made it to that little Nazi village in, like, Argentina or whatever it is.
Yeah. Very interesting. We'll never know for sure.
Look that up. That's crazy. It still exists today. Like, like hardcore Germans.
Yeah. In the middle of... Absolutely wild. All right. So into the conspiracy theories or the truth of what happened that day in Dallas. The first one, and this is probably one of the biggest, the magic bullet theory. So this was actually proven to be wrong in September of 2023. Quote, according to the Warren Commission's single bullet theory, derided as the magic bullet theory by conspiracy theorists, Governor Connally was injured by the same bullet, this is crazy, that exited Kennedy's neck. The bullet created an oval-shaped entry wound near his right shoulder, struck and destroyed several inches of Connally's right fifth rib, and exited his chest just below his right nipple, puncturing and collapsing his lung. That same bullet then entered his arm, just above his right wrist, and shattered his right radius bone. The bullet exited just below the wrist at the inner side of his right palm and finally lodged itself in his left thigh.
And it's like the little bullet that could. I think I can.
And they just put that out as like completely sure. That's what happened.
Well, I mean, you got to think too. Like back then, like the public was 100% under a spell.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on like the people alive during that time frame and stuff. It's just they did not have the technology and the sources available to them. We
still wouldn't know if we didn't have the access we do.
Well, and it's like we're both millennials, opposite ends of the decade, but but both of our parents are roughly the same age.
Yeah.
And you know, they see the world for what it is. You know, they see like all the corruption, all the evil and stuff. Right. But like we say all the time, they don't see it on the level that we do. No. Because they were born in the 60s, right? They were born during that time frame. And so even though they're still awake and they still see everything for what it is, they don't see it in such granularity like we do. And it's because we are the generation that grew up with internet. And so we were the ones that were online ever since we were kids, just searching this, searching that, searching this, searching that.
Well, and my thought is that while our parents do see things happening and go, that's suspicious, that's suspicious.
Well, that's what I mean. They see it.
But they're not connecting the dots and seeing the picture as a whole.
Yeah.
And I know I had a moment with my mom recently where I explained something to her about like the Biden family and not wanting to seize power. And she was texting me back going, oh, and I was like, yeah, Mom. Like, blew her mind. But it's just so interesting to see, like, they do understand some of those inner workings, but they're just not sure how it all fits together. And when you bring it to light, it's just like light bulb.
My dad's a little different. He doesn't want to know the full picture because it pisses him off.
He doesn't want to. Yeah, I think that's how my dad is too. Because he's very much like, okay, sure, you guys are in your conspiracy stuff, and I'm like,
no, it makes my dad start foaming at the mouth if he realizes like how bad. I mean, he knows everything's horrible.
Well, he also is a veteran,
right?
So he, fought for the country. But he served. Yes. He served, and so I think. And it doesn't take away from any of that.
Don't make him indirectly do a Tim Walz.
No. He served.
Yeah, he served. And he did serve overseas and everything,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. There just wasn't any major conflicts for him to go get in the middle of. Yeah. And that's the thing that you have to like think about too, is like none of what the government does behind our backs makes our military services sacrifice and everything any less.
Right.
Because you are still committing something so much bigger than yourself.
It's your life.
To a country. Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest sacrifice that you can make. And so it's like you are doing it for the right intentions, and like we need you still to protect us. Like that is still a fact of it, and we need our military to be strong.
They're putting shims as lieutenants and colonels.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean now is like they've tainted
They have.
the military.
They have. 100%. And that's so sad. It's sickening, honestly. For what? For corruption and money and power. It's gross. So, the magic bullet theory, I think, is a smack in the face. They were saying this 1.2-inch copper jacket lead core bullet went through Kennedy's back, ricocheted through his ribs, came out of his throat, which is the second shot you see in the video, and then it shoots into the governor. And it just makes no sense. If so, this bullet traversed a back brace, 15 layers of clothing, 7 layers of skin, and approximately 15 inches of muscle tissue, pulverizing 4 inches of Connolly's rib and shattering his radius bone. The bullet was found on a gurney in the corridor at Parkland Memorial Hospital after the assassination. The Warren Commission found that this gurney was one that had carried Governor Connolly. So it was just like so happened to be placed on the gurney after the fact. Red flag, red flag.
Yeah, just one though.
Just one.
Yeah.
So I think the main conspiracy theory that we subscribe to, as opposed to like, or sorry, in terms of how Kennedy actually did die, was that the driver shot him. And we will insert, well, no, I can't insert a video here.
Just go to Instagram.
Yeah,
see
if you
the
go
video.
Instagram or X, you can find these supposed missing frames from the Zapruder film, which seemingly they, like I said, they exist.
Oh, I have it on my phone. We can upload it whenever we do this content.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But there is video that you can find, will show, where you can actually see the driver, which was Secret Service agent William Robert Greer, turn over his right shoulder and shoot Kennedy.
Yeah.
And that would make sense, the trajectory of if it was Jackie going after a piece of his skull going off the back of the convertible. That was a big one. And actually, what's crazy is that eyewitnesses say that they saw this too. And then eyewitnesses also have attested to multiple shooters. So a lot of people were saying that there was another shooter on the grassy knoll behind the picket fence. They noticed it was weird that the car didn't immediately speed up to get them on the expressway faster. Right. It just kind of kept trekking along. And then another eyewitness, Major Phil Willis, his wife and daughter, all attested that they were there that day, and they think that the headshot came from the grassy knoll. He said that all people in Dallas disagree with the final observations of what happened, that everybody really knew, and that the shot actually did come from the right front of the car, which is where his driver would have been.
Yeah.
That video is like shocking too.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see. You really have to sit there and look at it a bit.
It's old.
But right, and the quality's nothing. But when you see it, and it's like, oh my Lord. And then to know that there was a doctored version, that they were shopping around the media, the Zapruder films, with that, shopped in tree and whatnot. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, and it's sloppy at the same time.
Okay, so that's the thing. These people that run everything, they are sloppy.
They're a mess.
They are so sloppy at all of the crap that they do.
80%.
As long as you pay attention and you actually know what to look for and see the things that they're doing, it's so easy to see what they're doing.
I know.
And they literally tell you half the time before they do it that they're going to do it.
Yeah.
All that preemptive programming that they like to do. Yep. But then they're so sloppy with it.
I know.
So
because they think we're that dumb.
Well, so 9/11, right? The Pentagon reports $3 trillion missing the day before or 2 days before, whichever it was. And then 9/11 happens.
Right.
And then the part of the Pentagon that gets hit is where all the financial records are kept. Right. And then Building 7 that collapsed after the fact is also where the CIA keeps a lot of financial records.
Yep.
Like, what?
We're just supposed to like walk
around.
And think
about that. $3 trillion. $3 trillion.
Yeah.
$3 trillion.
Where did it go? Is the question. Did we ever figure that one out?
No. We went to war instead.
To make more money.
Yep.
While sending our money elsewhere at the same time. Our tax dollars, they're laundering it all back to themselves. Yep. That's all it is at the end of the day. So we are 61 years out now from this event, and Tucker Carlson, it was last year? Yeah, because we did a whole report on it on socials. He came out because he knew somebody who had seen the remaining documents. And this person who, if Tucker's going to come out and talk about it, they're definitely a reputable source. He basically got the person to admit that when asked if the CIA was involved, they said, quote, "The answer is yes, I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country than what we thought it was. It's all fake."
Yep.
That coupled with Trump saying...
I keep saying that.
Right, and that was Trump was saying, if you knew what I knew, you would understand why I don't tell anybody. It's really crazy, too, because this came out from Tucker when he was still at Fox News, and we had shared it, talked about it a little bit, but there really wasn't much buzz. Mm-hmm. Shocking. Of course, they're trying to keep this under the radar, because it's kind of one of those 9/11 events in a way where, like, if you know it happened the way it happened, you start rethinking a lot of different things.
So the whole JFK thing, I mean, him getting shot is just a single event, but it's everything around that.
Right.
And everything leading up to that. And all the people involved in that.
And how similar is it to what we're living through right now?
Right.
And that's why I think this is like such a good time to talk about this, because there's so many of the same factors of like Trump wants to take us out of wars, not start new ones or continue ones that we're in. Well, what did they try to do?
They try to kill everyone that's for peace.
Yes.
I mean, Reagan was the one telling them to tear down the wall in Berlin because he didn't want war over there anymore.
The things that
JFK didn't want war with Cuba.
No. The powers that be do not want us to thrive.
No.
And the people who want to put us in that position of success are enemy of the state number one.
Yeah.
Whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's JFK, whether it's Ronald Reagan, Abraham Lincoln, like this stuff goes back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
And if you're not seeing it yet, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. And speaking about Tucker, he is very much somebody who, talks about this isn't just a theory, like this is a fact, the things that he does know. And when he came out on his Fox News segment and spoke to the fact that the person he knew was saying that, yes, the CIA was involved, Mike Pompeo's lawyer reached out to him, called him, and was like, that talking about what other people have told you about classified documents is illegal and you could get thrown in prison for it, basically, like threatening him.
No.
And he's sitting here saying, like, I'm sorry, but I thought this was supposed to be public documents that are no... And, like, now you are going to punish the person spreading the information instead of actually punishing the person who did the action in the first place, or the group of people, the administrator, whoever.
Right.
It's
or for not releasing the documents when they were supposed to. Anyway.
Exactly. This is stuff we should have known 7 years ago.
Right.
All of it. And the fact that they keep saying for national security reasons, it's like they don't trust us to know information.
Yeah.
Which is for our own good.
Well, so I think yes and no. I really do. I think, unfortunately, you have to keep the veil a little bit in place. Mm-hmm. I really do. Because I think if you just completely pull it back and show everyone in the country exactly what is going on, it would be chaos. Right. It would be complete anarchy, complete hysteria, complete chaos. And so I think kind of the way it's been happening, especially since COVID, we were having this conversation earlier today, is I think during our time frame, there's been two major waking points for people. One was 9/11 and the other one was COVID. I think COVID because everyone was locked in their house and all they had was time and their computer and internet and all that
and
stuff,
TikTok,
right? And
which they're now
TikTok
trying to
before
ban.
it was regulated the way that it is now. And so I think people just was like, holy crap, this is what they're really doing. And so I think that way is really the only way to wake up a society, is just little by little by little by little. Because if you give everybody just the full on information of what's going on, like you mentioned before, our government is fake. It's not real.
No.
Like, there is no Republican Democrat Party anymore. No. That's long gone. Government. Right. It's a shadow government, which is why people from both parties hate Trump. Right. Because they're a uniparty.
Right.
You know, one example I give all the time about the two parties and stuff, it's like Islam. You have the Sunnis and the Shiites, right? It's the two different types of Islam. They're constantly at war with each other until they come across a common enemy.
Right.
And then they attack that common enemy and they go back to fighting for supreme power between the two for Islam. It's the same thing with Republicans and Democrats.
Yep.
They're constantly fighting each other in front of us until another threat comes along.
Right.
Trump was that threat.
Well, they never thought that he, as an outsider, would be elected.
Right.
And be able to do anything.
Well, they did cheat for Hillary in 2016.
Yeah, just not hard enough.
They underestimated how many votes he was going to get. Yeah. So they made sure that Biden got the most votes of all time. Right. But both he and Trump got more votes than any other candidate of all time. Yeah. That's like a 1 in a million phenomenon.
Right.
Like, you're going to sit there and tell me both candidates did better than all other presidential candidates of all time in the same election?
More people showed up to vote this time than any other election ever.
It's like those memes you see, like, what was it? My grandpa has been a lifelong Republican. He's going to be pissed when he finds out that he was a registered Democrat. Too bad he's dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but it's true.
It's insane.
You know?
Well, and to the point that you're saying about, like, it would be too much for us to peel back the entire, everything on, or open the curtain entirely. It's like, but it's only gotten this bad, and it would only be too shocking and too much for us to absorb right now because they've gotten away with everything ever.
Right.
There's never been accountability for these things. Like, if we're talking that, even Abraham Lincoln's death may have been a setup from internally, that's hundreds of years?
When was 1800s.
I'm so bad about years. Yes, so close enough.
Yeah, 200 years, roughly.
I know my history.
Like 140 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So
50, 60.
It's sickening. But then Tucker also went on. This was on Joe Rogan's podcast, which, by the way, awesome episode, the two of them. Anytime Tucker's on, like, a good show, like Rogan or even Theo Vaughn, it's always a listen if you haven't already heard them. But he dropped this really big bombshell, basically. So, like I said, Mike Pompeo's lawyer called him after his segment, basically threatening him with jail time. And in addition, so Mike Pompeo was a former CIA director. He actually allegedly plotted to assassinate Julian Assange, who is the WikiLeaks founder from Australia. Yeah. Wasn't he just pardoned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In England.
I was going to say UK over there. But Tucker also claimed that Mike Pompeo, like we said, threatened him and then even pressured President Trump to not release the JFK files. Mike Pompeo, quote, Mike Pompeo was a Secretary of State, but before then, he was a director of the CIA, and in that position, he plotted the murder of Julian Assange, so he's a criminal as far as I'm concerned. And so Mike Pompeo is the one who pressed Trump to keep those documents secret. Pompeo did that. I think Pompeo is a real sinister person and a criminal. I think that because the facts suggest that he was caught. Bad people. Tucker calls the conspiracy as a whole an industry based off of all the books and shows and movies and documentaries that have been created based around the lie of John F. Kennedy's assassination, which is very, very true. Somebody else who really speaks out about this, not shocking at all, is RFK Jr. He right now is running as the independent. Best of luck, dude. But he believes it was an inside job. I mean, he's seen how many people from his family die at the hands of our government.
Right.
It's insane. He insists that the CIA was involved, and whenever the press talks about this, they're always trying to paint him as being crazy or
It's
this
crazy
bonkers
conspiracy
theory.
theorists, yeah.
Right. To coincide with the 60th anniversary of JFK's assassination, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has launched a petition calling for the Biden administration to release the last of the government's records related to the historic shooting. He says that releasing the full unredacted records would help restore trust in the government. I don't know about that. He says, quote, "What is so embarrassing that they're afraid to show the American public 60 years later?" And it's true. Because at this point, we have so much damning evidence. Like, what more is there?
Official omission.
Right.
That it was them.
Yeah.
That it was bankers. You know, but that's what I mean.
How
I
can
feel
they
like
admit that?
I feel like that information alone
Yeah.
would completely unravel everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think 9/11 would too if they came out and openly said, "Yeah, we planned it."
Right.
You know, but even then, I think 9/11, there's some people that wouldn't believe it because they were alive during that time frame, and for whatever reason, they have that mental block that they can't.
It's an emotional attachment because you remember
different.
Where you were when
Right.
it happened, the whole thing.
So JFK is different because it happened before many of us were alive.
Right.
You know,
We have more distance from it, so it's
Correct.
easier to conceptualize.
And
in that
then
way.
those of us that were alive, I mean, were what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years
Right.
old.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, 60 years ago. I mean, you think
My dad
about
was
that.
a year old.
Right.
My mom was just being born.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This was one of those for me that really hits the nail on the head about exactly who we are as a country nowadays
Right.
and who's running things.
Right.
Like and I think that too, just like we were talking about, drives our point home more and more about Donald Trump being this outside force. Like, if he wasn't a threat truly to all of everything that they have created in the past century and more,
Yeah.
you know, why would they be going after him?
As much as they are.
If he was playing into the agenda, if he was going to continue to run those things, they would make it, okay, vote for either. We don't really care because
Right.
they're both going to accomplish the end goal at the end of the day.
Right.
The more and more we learn about history and things that have happened and the more deep dives we do, it's like, just pulls me to that side more of not wanting to believe in the establishment.
Right.
Because it's all fake.
It is. Yeah.
And if it were a different Republican candidate, say it was Ted Cruz or what's his name in Florida, DeSantis.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, are you really choosing the president at that rate? Because
So,
they're both going to do the same things.
I feel
I don't
like if it wasn't Trump, if Trump just decided to not run in 24, like I feel like if he just chose not to, and if it probably would have been DeSantis. DeSantis probably would have got the steam and everything. I mean, they would have pushed Nikki Haley, the establishment, but I think DeSantis probably would have got it just because of what he did with Florida. I don't really see anyone else that could have beat him out.
No.
But I don't think they would have gone the drastic measures that they went the Democratic Party. I still think they probably would have made Biden step down, but they probably would have invoked the 25th Amendment instead. Just saying that he's, too old or whatever. And then they would have opened up the primaries for Democrat nominees, and then they could have had their pick of the litter in a sense. But because of everything that we mentioned before, none of the stuff working that they've used to try to destroy Trump worked.
Right.
So now they had to pull the drastic measures, and now they've made the least likable VP in the history of the United States. She's had the lowest approval rating of any VP in the history of the United States, and are making her the most popular person in the world. absolutely insane.
It's not real.
She is the first 100% created by the media candidate. 100%. Everyone else has at least had to campaign and like do the primaries and beat other people out and all this other stuff. Like, she was literally handpicked, and now she's being boosted by the media and influencers and everything else.
Based on a tweet put out overnight by the sitting president, who we haven't heard from in how long.
Right.
He's apparently on the beach in Delaware again.
Yeah. Sleeping on the beach. Oh, yeah.
Well, and it just hit me, too, the fact of, like, I don't think politicians as a whole have ever been, like, crazy popular. Like, there's always people who
You think Biden's been dead for a while now?
Yeah, I do.
I do, too.
There was that whole report that even Charlie Kirk was posting about that he was being, like, rushed to the hospital and then he got
talking,
med-vaxxed.
like, years.
Oh, yeah. If it's ever been him at all.
Well, I think the real Joe Biden probably died in like 2017 because he went missing for like 2 years. Like, he was just not in the headlines because a lot of people wanted him to run, but then he didn't run, so Hillary could run, all that kind of stuff. And then like one of his sons died, and then he just kind of went MIA for a while. Yeah. But then he pops back up, and he doesn't look the same.
No. The earlobes. I will never...
How many different Joe Bidens have we seen?
Get off the earlobe train. The height,
the
everything.
last one was like 4 inches taller than
I know.
than the previous ones.
Right. And again, a sloppy job.
Right. Because they don't care. Because society is that dumb.
People are that stupid. Yeah. I know. Well, and the thing that I'm thinking about is that like I said, politicians as a whole have never been extremely popular. They're not pop stars. They're not like famous rock bands. There's always been a dedicated group of people. Just hold on. Hear me out here. There's always been a dedicated group of people who will show up to the rallies, who will show up to these things, right? Always. But Trump is so much bigger than just a politician.
Yeah.
And so what you can't manufacture about him is his pull, is his reach, is the amount of people who support him and believe in him. And like that actual community, you can't fake that the way that they're faking Kamala right now with these AI photos and things.
I was going to say, I see a lot of people
trying to live up to what Trump's doing, and they can't. They physically can't because people don't have that relationship to Kamala or Joe or Newsom or whoever. Yeah. Not even like DeSantis. People wouldn't get on board like that. Right. It would be like a rah-rah, same amount of people who show up to Kamala events.
So, and that's why I was saying it has... Well, look, we'll figure out how J.D. Vance is. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's saying some good things and all this stuff, but I'm just a skeptic. Like, I'm just...
Right.
Because I didn't really hear about him until like a month or two before he was picked. Yeah. You know, so... I mean, that could just be me not knowing.
I was going to say, I remember him being a very big advocate when everything was going on in East Palestine, Ohio, with everything going on. Because they're like, go out and drink the water. And he's like, y'all are insane if you think that you should drink the water. He's like, look, he was going out and showing like the rainbow reflections in the waters and things, saying like, do not drink this. Yeah. So he was really at that point. That's the only time I've heard of him though outside of this now.
I guess the point I was making was this is like the conversations we've had before is I feel like he needed someone with the same gravitational pull. Yeah. Or similar gravitational pull that he had. Right. And that would be someone like a Tucker. Yeah. You know, that type of level. Right. And I get it, Tucker's never done politics. He's never done business. But neither had Trump before his presidency. But Trump did business, though. Yeah. And you can be business-minded, run a country, because you can run the country like a business. And in fact, it's going to run a lot better. Sure. You know, instead of a bunch of lawyers that know loopholes, not how to obey the Constitution, how to do loopholes with the Constitution. But the whole thing with Tucker is I feel like you don't necessarily need the know-how of like the nitty-gritty of everything. Yeah. You can get people. You can you can appoint people for that kind of stuff. You can
learn that from Donald
himself. Need to have the vision, you need to have the drive, and you need to have the mission. Mm-hmm. You need to have all those things. And I think Tucker's right on par with it. And that's why I think it should have been someone like that kind of pull.
Yeah.
I get it. J.D. Vance was a safe pick for him.
Yeah.
I understand. And the worst thing Democrats are saying is he's weird.
Yeah.
You know, like coming from the people that have
Our
sherbert
health
hair,
director,
calling themselves
man.
different genders.
Boy.
Right. But he's weird. You got a weird beard. Beard's weird.
Weird because he went to battle for our country and believes in family and patriotism.
Yeah.
I'll take that over abortions and endless war any day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Gen Z's dumb. So.
Yeah.
Not all y'all. There's some of you that are pretty smart.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, majority of the generation ate Tide Pods. So.
Or you've been sitting in front of screens your entire life and don't recognize what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they buy into the other stuff they shouldn't be buying into.
Right.
Like they're free Palestine, yeah. But like, dude, like I showed you that video of in Iran today of like 1 million people all chanting in uniform with each other.
That was scary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to show you too.
Those are the people that are sneaking across our border.
Right.
And they're in these rallies with these stupid college kids.
Right.
And then eventually it's going to turn into a civil war. Look at the UK. UK is a great precursor of what's going to happen to us. They've been getting flooded a lot longer than we have, but they're also a lot smaller than we are.
Yeah.
But I would say damn near half their population now is Muslim.
So
if not more.
Yeah, and I just saw headlines. There was this one, I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it's in the UK where there was a headline that says white people are on track to be a minority in blank city by blah, blah, blah year.
It's because we only have like 1 or 2 or 3 kids at the most now.
Yeah, and then it was like 2 years later, a headline from that same outlet about the same area was saying that it is now the most crime-ridden city in blah, blah, blah.
No.
So 2 years, the minority went down and it became this hole.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like, that's not racism. That's always the thing, is like, it's just
culture.
A fact.
It's what it is culture. So you got to think too. So Western civilization is quote unquote civilized in the sense of, right, we have manners and you know, we do all these types of things.
Social standards.
But like a lot of these people coming from these Muslim countries, like they don't really have morals and values. I mean, they do to an extent, but like especially the ones that practice Sharia law. Like that is nowhere
Savages.
near along the same ideology as Western civilization.
At all.
And so when you use basically brute force to force your ideology into a society like that, it overtakes it. And then it doesn't help when you have all of these government officials saying, "Oh, you can't be like that. That's xenophobic. That's Islamophobic. You can't do that." What?
Yeah.
No. Here's the thing. They moved here because of our culture. They moved here because of how this country is.
Yep.
You don't let them change the culture from
No.
the same crap holes that they took,
No.
that they fled from.
No.
Like, you don't do that. And that's just like all these people moving from blue states to red states.
Yep.
They're voting for the same crap that they ran away from.
Yep.
It's absolute insanity. And this is what like I've been asking liberals for probably a decade is, where do you draw the line at tolerance?
Right.
Like, where do you draw the line at tolerance and acceptance? Like, are you just going to tolerate and accept everything? I don't accept bigotry. Define bigotry.
Exactly.
Just because I don't want you dressed up as a woman in drag and reading to my kids in a provocative manner because it is a kink. That's what you're
dancing
doing.
in front of them at brunch on a Sunday.
Right. It's my fault? No.
Or you just don't want a librarian at a school giving our kids
The sex
graphic.
those
Yeah.
sex novels that they're giving out. Yeah. They want to ban books. Dude, this ain't Nazi Germany. Like, it's sex books.
Right.
Like, you're teaching teenage boys to suck penis.
Right. And we had this conversation the
And
other
this
day.
is all part of communism, by the way.
Yeah. No, it 100%.
Is create the gender wars, create the race
Yep.
wars, create gender confusion.
Yep.
This is all forms of communism
Right.
to control the minds.
Yeah. And there's nothing bigoted about, hey, life's really, really hard.
Get a
Our
helmet.
kids are going to have, yeah, get a helmet. Thank you, Candace. But like our children are going to have so much time to be sexual beings, to be
Right.
adults, to do those things. Don't ruin it for them.
Right.
You know, like they'll get there. Everybody
Adulting
gets
sucks.
there.
Like we can all agree, adulting
Right.
sucks.
Let them
so
just
let children be children. Yeah.
I never thought that would be such a big ask. You know?
Yeah. Well, now we're not asking.
No. We're enforcing at this point.
Now we're not asking.
No, we're not playing the game anymore.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think is so sad about everything we're seeing with these kids being brainwashed to think a certain way, and then they're getting involved and they're at these protests, at these rallies for Palestine and blah, 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 is a lot of it comes from them having no source of community or connection with anybody.
Right.
And so, again, like we've talked about, this evil side is targeting these kids who feel alone, who feel like they have nobody to click with. And hey, you know, all these people are getting together for this protest. Let's all get in on it together. But you have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
You don't know what you're standing for. You're about to make a decision in November that will possibly ruin everything.
Yeah.
If it goes a certain direction. And it's like, dude, kids, just give it like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Everything will get better. Everybody goes through a phase where they don't know who they are,
Well, that's why I
what
say-
they're doing in life. They don't have friends, but don't end up falling into this disgusting pit of just
Yeah.
immorality and hate and
That's why I say the voting age should be
toxic.
25.
everything. Yeah.
I think you need to be 25 years old before you can vote,
Yes.
because you have to live life. You have to pay bills. You have to
Right.
do all these different things. You have to make it on your own for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then vote based on what best benefits you.
Right.
Not some stupid college kid that's
Yeah.
18 years old living in a dorm getting high on whippets.
Yeah.
And saying, let's vote for Kamala
Or
because she's
lean
a
or-
woman.
Yeah.
Like, it's... And that's another thing, all these Democrats. No one's saying they're voting for her because she's a woman. Dude, there's
So many.
countless videos
So
in my
many.
feed. I'm voting for Kamala because she's a woman.
Right. Well, and so many of these people who are
Fact checkers.
Yeah. I know. So many of these people who are down to vote for her and whatnot are living at home with parents, or they're on
Right.
government assistance, or they're on, you know, their student loans that they're living in college at. And it's like your guys' dumb decisions are going to affect people like you and me.
Yeah.
Who have a home, who have worked so hard for what we have, who are expanding our family, who are trying to raise a child. Like, it may not inflict them much if everything goes to but it's going to hurt the rest of us a lot.
So, Gen Z makes up, what, 30% of the population, roughly?
Yeah. is that
Something
what we
like
read?
that.
Yeah.
So,
Or 20 something.
I
Whatever.
would dare say that out of the legitimate votes,
Mm-hmm.
Kamala would probably get roughly 25, maybe 30% of the legal, legit votes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be a massive
people.
landslide. And I believe it was a massive landslide in 2020.
Yeah.
I just do.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they probably boosted him by like 30 million votes. I mean, if he got 81, he probably got 51.
Right.
You know, and Trump got 76, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And which has never been done. The highest before that was 72. Right? So, like,
So Biden almost did
Yeah.
that by 10 million more
Yeah. So,
in the middle of the night.
yeah. So, well, and like I said, that Venezuelan scale of their election night looks the exact same as our 2021 with the F. How
Yeah.
it goes up like
right.
that.
Right.
Because they spiked it. They stole
They
it.
stole it.
But if they steal for Kamala, one thing, you know, January 6th was an inside job. It was planned. It was all set up to take
Make it look worse
Trump
than it
off
was.
air,
Sure.
to impeach him a second time, all that stuff.
Right.
But one thing that January 6th showed, if you were paying attention, was a handful of people can shut down the government in a single day,
Yeah.
unarmed.
Yeah. And they're still talking about it
And they're still talking
how much
about
later?
it. And that's another thing, too. If it's an insurrection, why do they leave their guns at home?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
and what an insurrectionist leader to say, everybody be peaceful and go
home. Right. Support our law enforcement. Go home. Yeah. But that's why they took him off the air.
Right.
Because he can't talk to his people.
Right.
So.
And they couldn't see those tweets either where he told people to go home.
Right. Yep. They took it down. Yeah. But January 6th is going to be a drop in the ocean if they steal again for Kamala.
Absolutely.
I'm not condoning anything.
No.
I'm not.
No.
I'm not saying
No.
I support or saying other people should do this. But
we're just looking at the atmosphere and the temperature in the room right now.
Yeah, the world's a powder keg ready to explode.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. And the fate of the entire world, not our country, the fate of the entire world rests on the results of this election. Yeah. The only chance that we have is to make it too big to rig. Yeah. If we show up in full, complete force and absolutely dominate, that is the only way we can win. Yeah. Otherwise, the next best thing we can do that doesn't result in a civil war in the streets, shut the country down.
Just stop.
Don't go to work.
Yep.
Don't pay bills.
Yep.
Just stay at home. Go in the streets then.
What happens when the worker bees don't
But look
return
at
to
Venezuela right now, how they dealt with their stolen election.
Yeah.
They shut down the airports. They've shut down the streets.
Yep.
Like they've
And their citizens aren't even armed.
They're not even armed. Yeah.
And their military was turning on them.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's...
Yeah, they don't have guns because they voted in socialism and communism.
Crazy how that works. Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
Yep, communism is the one thing you can vote in, but you got to revolt to get out of.
Yep.
And Kamala will 100% bring that. Tim Walz, man, that guy is gross.
Dark.
Yeah, he has ties to the CCP dating back to 1989, where he was a teacher over there. He and his wife honeymooned there. They also set up a exchange program for U.S. students to go to China, funded by the CCP. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who he's in bed with.
Oh, he's had an extreme admiration for the Communist Party for a long time. Not to mention the whole thing in Nebraska where he over-ingested horse semen.
Is that actually
verified? I saw the news clip. I literally saw the news clip.
I know you were trying to connect dots.
It's the name, it's the state, it's the year that
allegedly.
He was still in there.
Put allegedly in front of that.
No. He was literally still in Nebraska during that time frame.
Okay. I know, but for sure wasn't it.
And then he moved to Minnesota shortly after that.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm looking up because I'm very excited for this upcoming interview between Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
That's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yay.
Yeah,
Monday?
This will be aired after the fact.
Ooh, okay, fun. Fun. This is exciting, though. And we were talking about if they can stream it on X, which... Is that what they're doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great because they can't take it down because Elon owns the damn thing. So that'll be really interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Crazy, too. It just shows you how small of a world. And I guess this makes us... No. We still have 2 degrees of separation to Trump. But somebody I went to high school with... I won't say names because I don't want to. But who's in this space as well and has a podcast is going to be interviewing Trump soon.
Boo.
I know.
We're better than he is.
I know. I don't want to publicly root for somebody's, not success, but I don't know. If y'all knew him, the way I know.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd have the platform he does.
Probably not.
No. So anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of blew up, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Twice.
Thanks to the...
Twice, which makes me think,
Thanks to the Blank brothers.
Yeah, who has a kind of blow up like that twice in their career?
Yeah. Someone that did something to get there.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening today. We super appreciate every time you're here with us, and hope that you learned a lot. I'll have our socials down below, per usual. Please come and follow us. We've been getting a horde of people writing us on Instagram saying that they go to follow us and it tells them, this account is not safe. They are known to share misinformation. And everybody's like, well, I'm in the right place then. So
Dang right.
if that's you, trust you're in the right place. We are not deceiving or sharing misinformation. That is never, ever the goal. So join the squad.
And if you're thirsty, click the link in our bio for
Freedom 2.0. Yeah. We are now affiliates with this awesome water brand, Freedom 2.0. Yep. They are a small company here based in the U.S. creating water and water bottles that have really crazy, cool slogans and whatnot on them. Yeah. Big fighters for freedom.
Water for deplorables.
Yeah. Mine's you can't deprogram freedom. So we have an affiliate link in our bio. If you want a new water supplier, go and get you some. Yes. Anything else? America.
Freedom 2.0.
Freedom 2.0 and Untethered Minds. I know you guys like my Texas accent there. All right. Howdy. Before we go loopy, thank you so much. We will talk to you soon. Follow us on socials and have a great day wherever y'all are at.
Good morning, good evening, and good night.
And good morning, Vietnam.
Yeah.
I miss Robin Williams.
Yeah, he didn't hang himself.
No, you don't think so?
No.
Okay, we gotta go. We're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. Have a great one, guys. Yeah. We will talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.